What is the one thing that God cannot resist? Stay with me, and you'll discover how this secret can release God's power in your life. In the Bible, it is the cornerstone of our relationship with God. But what makes it so powerful? Why is it that it is the key to unlocking God's blessings and seeing His hand move mightily in our lives? Let's embark on this journey to uncover the truth about this thing and how it can transform your life. Hebrews 11:1 tells us, "Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen." This verse encapsulates the very essence of faith. It is the assurance of things we hope for and the conviction of things we cannot see. Faith goes beyond mere belief. It is the foundation upon which we build our trust in God. It is believing that God is who He says He is, and that He will do what He has promised, even when we cannot see it. Pause for a moment and consider, how strong is your faith? Do you truly believe that God can and will work in your life? Faith is the bridge that connects us to God. It is the key that unlocks His power in our lives. Without faith, we cannot have a relationship with Him, nor can we experience the fullness of His blessings. It's not about our strength, but about trusting in His. The Bible tells us that without faith it is impossible to please God. Hebrews 11:6. This highlights the vital role of faith in our walk with God. It's the foundation upon which our relationship with Him is built. Faith is a choice we make every day, a choice to believe in God's promises even when we don't see the results yet. It's about trusting in His goodness even in the midst of trials. When we have faith, we open ourselves up to the limitless possibilities that God has in store for us. We step into a life of victory, knowing that He is always with us. What exactly is faith? Hebrews 11:1 beautifully defines it. Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. This means that faith gives substance to our hopes and dreams. It makes them real even if we can't see them yet. Think of it like this. When you plant a seed in the ground, you can't see the flower yet, but you have faith that it will grow. You water it, you give it sunlight, and you trust the process. Faith is the same way. We plant seeds of faith through prayer, through reading God's word, and through acting on what we believe. And even though we may not see the results immediately, we trust that God is working behind the scenes. Just like that tiny seed, our faith has the potential to grow into something beautiful. It can move mountains, heal bodies, and transform lives. The Bible tells us that without faith, it is impossible to please God. Hebrews 11:6. This doesn't mean we have to be perfect to please Him. It means that we come to Him with a heart of trust, believing that He is who He says He is and that He will do what He has promised. When we live our lives based on faith, we are essentially saying to God, "I trust you." We are acknowledging His sovereignty and His goodness even when things are tough. This pleases God because it shows that we value our relationship with Him above all else. It shows that we are not relying on our own understanding, but on His wisdom and guidance. Living a life of faith is not always easy. There will be times when our faith is tested, when we face challenges that seem insurmountable. But it is in those moments that our faith has the opportunity to grow the strongest. The Bible is filled with examples of ordinary people who accomplished extraordinary things through faith. Take Abraham, for instance. He was called by God to leave his homeland and go to a place he didn't know. Despite not knowing where he was going, Abraham obeyed God's call because he had faith in God's promises. Hebrews 11:8-10. Then there was the centurion who approached Jesus, begging for healing for his servant. He believed Jesus could heal his servant just by speaking the word. Jesus was amazed by his faith and said, "Go your way. And as you have believed, so let it be done for you." Matthew 8:5-13. The woman with the issue of blood for 12 years is another powerful example of faith in action. She believed that if she could just touch the hem of Jesus' garment, she would be healed. And she was. Jesus said to her, "Daughter, your faith has made you well." Mark 5:25-34. David, a young shepherd boy, faced the giant Goliath with unwavering faith in God. His faith in God gave him the victory. 1 Samuel 17:45-50. Joseph, sold into slavery by his own brothers, chose to trust God even in difficult circumstances. His faith led him to a position of power in Egypt, where he saved his family from famine. Genesis 37-50. These stories remind us that faith is not passive. It's about acting on that belief even when it seems impossible. One of the most challenging aspects of faith is trusting God's timing. We live in a world of instant gratification where we want everything right now. But God often works on a different timetable than we do. Habakkuk 2 verses 3-4 tells us, "For the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it will speak, and it will not lie. Though it tarries, wait for it, because it will surely come, it will not tarry." This verse reminds us that God's plans are always perfect, even if we don't understand them at the time. Sometimes He allows us to go through waiting periods to teach us patience, to grow our faith, and to prepare us for the blessings He has in store for us. When we trust God's timing, we are essentially saying, "I believe that you know what's best for me, even if I don't see it right now." This kind of trust deepens our relationship with Him and allows us to experience His peace, even when we are in the middle of a storm. Remember, delay is not denial. Just because we don't see something happening right away doesn't mean God isn't working behind the scenes. Faith without works is dead. James 2 verse 17. This verse is often misunderstood to mean that we have to earn God's favor through our actions, but that's not what it means at all. What this verse is saying is that true faith will always be accompanied by action. If we truly believe something, our actions will reflect that belief. Our faith should be evident in the way we live our lives, in the choices we make, and in the way we treat others. Think about the heroes of faith we discussed earlier. Abraham didn't just sit around and wait for God to bring him to the promised land. He packed up his belongings and set out on a journey, trusting that God would lead the way. The woman with the issue of blood didn't just stay at home and hope to get better. She pushed through the crowd, believing that if she could just touch Jesus, she would be healed. In the same way, our faith should motivate us to take action. It should inspire us to step outside of our comfort zones, to face our fears, and to live a life that is pleasing to God. Living by faith is not just about going to church or reading our Bibles, although those things are important. It's about cultivating a lifestyle of trust in God, relying on Him for everything, and seeking His will in all that we do. It's about choosing to believe God's promises over our circumstances, His voice over the lies of the enemy. It's about waking up every morning and saying, "God, I trust you with my life today. I don't know what the future holds, but I know that you are in control." Living by faith is a journey, not a destination. There will be ups and downs, twists and turns along the way. But if we keep our eyes fixed on Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith, we can overcome any obstacle that comes our way. Remember, faith is a muscle that needs to be exercised regularly. The more we use it, the stronger it will become. Faith unlocks the power of God in our lives. It's like plugging into a limitless power source, giving us the strength, courage, and wisdom we need to overcome any obstacle. When we operate in faith, we are partnering with the God who can do the impossible. Remember, with God all things are possible. Matthew 19:26. This is not just a nice saying, it's a powerful truth that we can apply to our lives. When we dare to believe God for the impossible, we open ourselves up to experiencing His supernatural power. We see this truth illustrated throughout the Bible. The walls of Jericho came tumbling down because of the Israelites' faith. Joshua 6:1-20. The Red Sea parted because Moses had faith in God's power. Exodus 14:15-31. These were not just random miracles, they were demonstrations of what God can do when His people dare to believe. And the same power that worked in their lives is available to us today. Faith is not something we are born with, it's a gift from God that grows as we spend time with Him. Romans 10:17. The more we get to know Him through His Word and through prayer, the more our faith will grow. One of the best ways to strengthen our faith is to surround ourselves with other believers who can encourage us and pray for us. When we are surrounded by people who are also walking by faith, it helps us to stay strong, especially when times get tough. Another important aspect of growing in faith is obedience. When God speaks to our hearts, We need to be willing to obey, even if it doesn't make sense to us. Obedience demonstrates our faith and pleases God. Remember, faith is a journey, not a destination. There will be times when our faith is tested, when we face challenges that seem insurmountable. But it is in those moments that our faith has the opportunity to grow the strongest. For we walk by faith, not by sight. 2 Corinthians 5:7. This verse reminds us that the Christian life is not always easy. There will be times when we don't understand what God is doing, when we face challenges that test our faith. But even in those moments, we can choose to trust God. We can choose to walk by faith, not by sight. We can choose to believe that He is who He says He is and that He will do what He has promised. When we do this, we open ourselves up to experiencing the fullness of His blessings. We tap into a supernatural power that can overcome any obstacle. We discover the true meaning of peace and joy, even in the midst of trials. So today, I encourage you to take a step of faith, trust God with your whole heart, believe in His promises, and watch as He does amazing things in your life.